Welcome to the Grappling Grappling Rewind Podcast.
Welcome to this week on the Grappling Rewind Podcast. In this week's show, we're going to recap Spyder Korea, their road to black belt. We're going to recap Fight to Win 147. We're going to preview Fight to Win 148 and BJJ Stars 3. That's happening on Flow Grappling this weekend. As always on your show, I am the host, Maine, joined with my co-host,
Emil.
How you doing, Emil?
Awesome, dude.
Doing this a day early. I'm going on the first vacation I've gone on in like a year and a half.
Hell yeah, dude. You're going to the beach, you said?
I'm going to the beach. We're going to the middle of nowhere. It's going to be awesome. And so we popped the show in. As a result, we are doing this before EBI Jiu-Jitsu Overtime is happening. That card actually has a bunch of fun names. I kind of wish it was a normal EBI format tournament because there's like 6 guys that I would almost like favor in that event. But you can watch that on Fight Pass, or at this point it's happened on Fight Pass. But we're not going to be covering it because it hasn't happened yet. Before we get into that, let's talk about a little bit of news. I honestly kind of want a non sequitur here. We don't usually talk about MMA. Recently, we've talked about MMA a little more. There were like 3 really fun submissions and
really good submissions
in the UFC this weekend.
Yeah.
And there was no grappling happening that evening.
Where do you want to start, dude? There's so many like. Well, we'll start with maybe the title fight. Yeah. That's like the most bread and butter submission that we saw, but it was still punctuated by a lot of violence, and I saw people on Reddit talking about how it was one of the most violent submissions that anyone has seen, with like the only exception to that being John Jones like dropping Lyoto Machida like just a sack of potatoes.
The way that Benavidez, if you don't know, if you haven't watched it, Benavidez and Davidson Figueiredo fought for the title because Figueiredo had missed weight in their prior fight, and where he finished Joe Benavidez. Joe Benavidez is like the most accomplished. At this point, he's actually lost the most title fights of any guy in the UFC.
He's 0-5.
Yeah, 0-5.
Yeah.
He surpassed Florian, surpassed everyone else, which sucks. I'm a huge Joseph Benavidez fan, like going for the little guys.
He's 28-2 in non-title fights.
Yo, you read the Reddit post as well?
Yeah.
Dude, crazy good, but again, Figueiredo looked
so
crazy.
Yeah, Figueiredo was like just
beat the brakes off him.
Yeah, beat the brakes off him, dropping bombs, wobbled him, and Benavidez is basically in the corner in the cage, and Figueiredo just like swarms him, drops some elbows, causes him to roll, and he just goes for a standard rear naked choke. But it was like one of those like back-bending, like Bane style fucking Breaking Batman level.
Also didn't help that they were right in front of the camera, and you could
see Benavidez's eyes roll into his head.
And you watched him go to sleep. And
yeah.
It was pretty graphic.
Yeah.
In a way that usually you don't have UFC high-res cameras that close in a relatively quiet arena to watch something like a title fight end like this. Figueiredo looks really, really good.
Yep.
It was a pretty bread and butter rear naked choke, but there wasn't a ton of other grappling this weekend for cards, and it was the only thing happening Saturday night for me.
Yeah.
So
and
I watched it.
It was remarkable that there was and we'll talk about the next 2 submissions.
Also,
that were just like
the only time that Benavidez has ever been submitted in his pro career.
Yeah.
Like ever.
Yeah.
So that kind of speaks to Figueiredo.
This UFC event had the
second women's leg lock of the quarantine.
Yeah.
The first one was Mackenzie Dern's knee bar. Now we have, I'm going to fuck up her name. I always want to call her Adriana. It's Ariana Lipsick.
Yeah.
Finished a knee bar versus Lipsky versus Luana Carolina.
Yeah.
But she did it when Carolina had her almost in like a truck calf slicer position. And we talked about it in the Grappling Rewind team chat. Matt brought it up. He's like, yeah, had she like finished that normally, like the knee bar, if you fall back to the hip on the knee bar, you're going to calf slice yourself. But so Lipsick finished it like
upright, basically squatting.
Yeah, and like a squatting knee bar.
Which is brilliant because it alleviates the pressure from the calf slicer and allows you to extend upwards. And it was like watching like a nature documentary where there's like a snake and a bird mutually like killing each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was gnarly.
I was like, oh, the calf slicer's there. And I was like, she's going to go for that knee bar. And she goes for it. I went, oh, shit. And she finishes upright. And then you can see the knee bend and it looked atrocious. But again, it's kind of why I like women's fights because you can see the arm. Women are more flexible, and so you get those crazy static Joao Meow images of knees.
No.
And great finish. Good to see her get that win. We actually talked about this a bunch before the show. Kevin Gaslam getting heel hooked by Jack Hermansson was also
like in a minute and a half or something like that.
Really, really quick. I want to say it's a minute 18 seconds.
Yeah. So
this is honestly one of the coolest grappling exchanges of the weekend. We had Spyder, we had Fight to Win, and we had like Jack Hermansson's heel hook finish of Gaslam.
I had to watch this like a few times because I was like, I don't get why like Gaslam was not just like clearing the knee line, and then
why does he just
I watched
stand
it
up,
like
bro?
Like numerous times. I was like, oh shit.
You had me
like,
watch it because I thought it was like, oh, Gaslam has shitty defense, and then we watched it a bunch of times, and I went, wow. I actually missed all the stuff that Hermansson was doing here to control Gaslam's knee line.
Yeah, I think, off the bat, what you can see from the beginning of the exchange, basically, Hermansson's on his back, Gaslam's like over him, trying to like rain blows down, and Hermansson's able to like elevate and get to outside.
Sweeps him.
Yep, single leg X. Although it's not a sweep so much as like it's just an entanglement, and then Gaslam turns, and if you don't watch it carefully, you miss.
You don't watch it frame by frame
by frame.
We did
Hermansson
over and over.
from the beginning controls the far leg.
Yeah.
Putting his instep behind the knee there, and that's good for the trip, but it's also great because it prevents the backstep escape that we've seen a lot of jiu-jitsu guys use lately.
It's like really common. We see a ton of heel hooks every single weekend on this show. We saw one this weekend on the show. It's a really common defense, but because Hermansson has his foot in that position, blocking that far side leg, Gaslam he can't get up on that leg to backstep it.
Right. He can't backstep it at all, and so now like his main defense for alleviating the pressure in his knee is to clear the knee line, but the positioning is just so weird because Hermansson's biting the leg with his upper thighs.
Yeah.
Like,
so it looks, if you look at it like really quickly, when I initially watched it, I was like, I got beat by a shitty heel hook. It's actually not. Like, Hermansson's controlling with the upper piece of his thighs. The knee's not super, super deep in, but because of where he has his hips positioned here in this finish, it doesn't have to be super deep. He can still get the purchase on the heel that he needs here with that the high knee control, and because of how he's kind of entangled his legs with the cross-side leg, Gaslam can't base up in order to just pop the knee through because it's being bit on by the top.
Yeah, it's remarkable. I just watched it a few times being like, if I were in Gaslam's position, I can't immediately intuit how I would start shoving to try to get my knee clear.
There's two ways I think he could have done it. Well, he kind of starts to go for the hands, which where he is, I think is a really bad spot to be because you fighting the hands in that position is probably not what you want to do because even he's stretched out enough, so he probably can't fight the hands and strike. Yeah. So he could have gone like what Gordon Ryan does and like sat to his ass and pull his legs straight out.
Right.
Or he could have basically like he would have had to get up on his hands when he initially fell down and like scoot back and then pop his leg through and then re-square. Those are like the two options he could have done, but where he is when he finally dropped, where Gaslam is when he finally kind of drops, he would have to turn and sit. And it's super unintuitive to do that in a May fight because you're conceding like an open bottom position, and he kind of probably goes to instinct where like positionally wants to be on top, and that's why he fights it in this way. But dude, Hermansson gets it done really quick, and
it's a dope finish.
Yeah, it actually is a really, really cool finish. Try to see if you can go find the GIF finish of it, because it's actually like a lot of fun, super nifty.
Yeah.
Let's see what else I got for news. So that's all I got for we went on UFC way longer than we ever do. Let's see. Oh yeah, Gordon Ryan has now been announced for Rolando Jr. for Fight to Win. For Who's Number One on July 31st. We'll talk about this, preview this a little more. I'm going through and watching some highlight videos of Rolando because I'm just less familiar with his Nogi game. Atos black belt. Gordon Ryan has talked in numerous interviews about why he kind of wanted this fight. There's other fights I would have liked to see Gordon in, but if Gordon's interested in the fight, I'm down for it. We'll preview this when it gets closer to the event in a couple weeks. Let's see. Oh yeah, Craig Jones. And do you have anything on that you want to add into? Craig Jones versus Mason Fowler 3 for SUG 17 announced not even a day after the match, the second matchup.
This is just confirming my conspiracy theory that in order to sell this triple header, Chael asked for a very quick call. So
yeah,
but that's Emil's theory. Yeah. And here we go. We got we got number 3, which honestly, I'm not salty about. Craig Jones posted on his Instagram. He's pushing for a 15-minute regulation.
That's what I would hope. Honestly, like these two guys, 5 minutes is not long enough. I don't want to see this one. I don't want to cover this one again as a 5-minute match with overtime. It's just not long enough. No. And it does both guys a disservice because we don't.
There should be no overtime. Even I agree that
we don't like overtime.
We don't like overtime, but especially not for a 5-minute match. And
especially not with two guys that are world ranked at 88. Like some of the best guys in the world at 88. Like I want to see them like perform for more than 5 minutes. It's just I feel cheated when we see that match like so quick. Because again, the first match, the regulation of it was a lot of Craig kind of trying to enter and Fowler kind of playing it safe there, and then it went to overtime and it got all weird. I want to see a full length match here at minimum 10 minutes for this one. It's a main event, and it's a main event with two of the best guys in the world at 88.
Well, that's where we disagree. I don't think more time equals better. But
25 minutes, Emil, at least, minimum.
God, man, no.
I don't want to see this one from match. I've seen enough of those. I do not want to
even
see that.
15-minute. The number of 15-minute matches that were actually good, I could probably count on my hands, like total. Off the top of my head,
excluding all of ADCC matches, because those are special. We'll get in this argument at a later date on another bonus show when Emil and I discuss the merits of like how long that match should be, which is about 6 minutes usually. Let's see. So I got nothing else on that. That's fun. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I do want to see it longer. I'm less interested if it is not. We're still gonna cover it regardless, but I want to see like it play out, not just be this weird like feeling out process for 4 minutes and then overtime. Also on that card, Roberto Jimenez versus Jessie Taylor has been announced. We see Jessie a lot on it and Sug. We see Roberto beating everyone for the most part. Should be an interesting thing. I'm kind of curious to see if the cage wrestling will come more into this, or if Roberto will just do what he's kind of traditionally done at Sug, which is just guillotine and triangle everyone very, very quickly. I could see it going that way. Gordon Ryan versus Volando is also a no time limit sub only match. I'm happy, honestly, that Gordon's pushing for his thing. Like, he's always talked about wanting those matchups, and I'm happy that he's in a position to demand that that's the format to fight him in. It's not necessarily my favorite format to watch, but in the last, I think, 3 we've covered him in, he's finished in under 10 or 15 minutes. I think Tex Johnson was the longest one, and I think that was either just shy of 10 minutes or just shy of 15 minutes. The Kyle match was just shy of 10 minutes. I'm happy. I'll cover Gordon Ryan in those kind of matches. He's earned it. Let's see. I got nothing else for news. It was a pretty quiet week for news, and I'm super happy about that. You have any other news?
Nope.
All right. So you want to move into Spyder or move into Fight to Win? What do you want to do first?
Let's do Fight to Win.
All right. So I want to recap of Fight to Win 147. This one was headlined by Jonathan Alves versus Manuel Hibamar, and Hibamar becomes the Fight to Win middleweight champion in the gi.
Yeah, he gets a decision win over Jonathan Alves, and
this was kind of like an IBJJF match. Both guys played it like an IBJJF match, and I kind of wish they wouldn't have.
Yeah, it's highly, highly technical. I mean, like, double-seated open guard, interesting leg positions and grips, like, for that particular position.
That was the most interesting thing about that match to me, was, like, it didn't look straight up IBJJF. Like, there was some more, like, they looked like they wanted to go for the legs a little more. That seemed to be what both guys were looking for. I think the only submission attempts in this entire match, for the most part, were, like, a toe hold attempt, straight ankle attempt, and, like, another straight ankle attempt.
I have a feeling both guys were just trying to dictate those grips in that space because, for sure, Alves is going to be, his Berimbolo game is going to be ridiculous.
He's an AOJ guy. That is what he's looking for. Go back to watch the match with him and Shane Jamahal Taylor. Like, that is probably exactly what he is looking for all his matches to look like.
Right. And you could tell that, like, they were grabbing, their grips were really low on the ankle. Mm-hmm. Like, they were definitely pummeling. Yep. Yeah. So
I don't have, honestly, a ton more on that match.
That's basically it.
It looked really, really IBJJF heavy. I wish both guys kind of would have opened up a little more because we've seen, spectacular matches from both guys. It was, it was a pretty closely contested match. Hibamar gets it. I'm curious to see who Hibamar will fight next in the gi for Fight to Win because, and if it will kind of like play out a little differently. Next match, honestly, this is probably one of my fights of the night. Was Rafael Lovato. God, every time Rafael Lovato Jr. Defeating Helton Jose Jr. via armbar with like 23 seconds left in the match.
Yeah, it was dope.
I thought this was going to go to decision. I was like, oh, snap. This is the first time we've seen Lovato go to decision in a little bit here.
Lovato basically was, in guard and comes up on a tech, like basically the tech up sweep.
Yeah.
And
is there a better word for that sweep?
No. I mean, is
there like an actual name for it? I know it's a tech up sweep.
It's just a tech. It's you maintain the collar grip and you tech up. It's like that's all it is.
It's a really strong. We see it a bunch at Spyder. I mean, it's a really really strong like sweep. Yeah. And because you're already kind of committed to the grips and the position, a lot of times guys have a really hard time of stopping because you can control the hits.
It's also great if the person is not committing to pressuring into you. Like if they're back on their heels, then
they have to get up and then
they have to get up fighting. And then it doesn't take very much to just shove them back a little bit. And once their center of gravity is that far back, they're not going to recover. Yeah. All you have to do is just get up basically at that point. So that's what Lovato does. And then he maintains that collar grip and does a really his body is extended because he has that collar grip, and he goes into a knee cut pass that is beautiful.
I love watching Lovato's passing. He has a new passing DVD or something. He has a new Gi DVD out. I think it's his passing. I'm kind of really curious about it because Lovato's game is a game that kind of fascinates me because he will make the right decisions, but he will constantly be moving forward. Yeah. He's not one of the guys that I tend to watch stall out in a lot of positions, and so his passing, his timing is great. Him and all the barrels, the timing is really really nice, and combined with that pressure passing, which typically he just kind of drives through you. It's nice to see him have some dynamism to it.
Yeah, this is a beautiful knee slice pass. Gets to basically around the side. I think Helton even tries to turtle at some point.
A little bit.
But Lovato's just on top of it. He gets to an armbar, and the finishing sequence is just fucking awesome.
He's in it. So he's basically almost kind of gone to the back, but he's kind of on the side at an angle. And so you can see him realize, okay, I have this very little time left. I think at this point there's 40 seconds left in the match. He's a little off angle, and you're not certain in case you're trying to square back off the back, maybe go for the choke, but he goes nope, and so he slides his far side leg over the shoulder and over the head, and starts going for the arm. And you're like, oh, he is running out of time. Is he gonna get it? And so he's fighting, and then he does something really nifty. And it was one of the coolest things I saw this whole weekend was Helton he's defending the armbar by having his armbarred hand grab his far side collar grip on his own lapel of the jacket. And you see Lovato start pulling the arm, look down, and then do a grip break on that far side, just a regular
he just grabs the
break.
lapel and snaps it out. And then once it's free, that arm is all Raphael's.
Just goons it. It was awesome. And I loved also that he has his legs super wide open when he does the armbar, and you see how strong Lovato is. He just grips and rips it. It was like, wow, his knees don't even have to be pinched because his positioning for everything else is so good, and he's so strong that he just pulls it out. But that little grip switch was the grip break there was so cool to me to watch because you just watched him identify that he had 25 seconds left, and he had to get something done to just go up and just reach over so casually and just pop the grip off and then fight the arm. Was just a little moment of clarity in a match like this that I really enjoyed as a viewer watching. Yep. So that was probably one of the cooler sequences this weekend for the Black Belts to fight to win.
Next up, we have Elizabeth Clay defeating Louisa Monteiro via heel hook.
Elizabeth Clay still a brown belt. That's submission night for the Black Belts. Yep. She was actually because Louisa is a black belt. Elizabeth is still technically a brown belt. It was a no-gi match. Elizabeth sits immediately and starts looking for the heel. They kind of roll off the mat, and they reset both competitors in the center. Yep. But Elizabeth kind of starts with, not just start in the heel hook like Paul Harris style, but she starts very, very close to in the heel hook, and they restart, and she turns it over and gets the heel hook. Yep. And we talked about this a little bit before we recorded. We're going through what we were talking about this week on the show. And this is the second week in a row that we've seen a kind of weird co-main event
where there's finish. A submission off of the reset.
The same thing happened with Najmi versus Cushinho, where they reset when Cushinho was kind of falling off the back mount when Najmi was on the back, and then Najmi very quickly after they get to the choke. Same thing kind of happened here. I don't want to take anything away from either grappler here, but it was it was another kind of weird reset where it's like, I don't know, when you talked about, like, I don't know how you would really fix it.
There's, in the Fight to Win rule set, so like in many rule sets, you get penalized for fleeing the mat if you're in a submission.
Or not even fleeing the mat, like if you roll off while there's a sub happening.
I'm just going to call anything.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Any time you leave the mat in a submission, it's fleeing the mat.
Right, and you get 2 points assessed to you in IBJJF. There's other ways to do it in other promotions as well.
Yeah.
But in Fight to Win, because there's no points, that's kind of what we like about a lot of Fight to Win matches, is guys aren't fighting for the points, they're fighting to win.
There's no way to penalize.
Right.
So, they reset. I guess the penalty is getting reset in the fucking submission.
Right, and she didn't get reset in the sub here, but it was... She got reset in a position that was very, very close to the sub, and then with the positioning, she wasn't able to sort of mount any sort of demonstrable offense to the heel hook there. And again, Clay's entire game is, I'm going to grab your leg, I'm going to heel hook you. Like, that's, for all of Clay's big wins, that's typically what she does. She sits and looks for that leg lock because, that's where her game is centered.
Yeah.
So I was... I kind of wish I would have gone differently, but again, props to Elizabeth Clay. This is probably, I think, definitely the biggest win of her career. I assume she's knocking on the door of black belt. I assume we're going to see her in the trials. I'm curious to see if she will do, if Tom DeBlas is still going to do the East Coast trials and have a women's winner get airfare stuff. Because again, I don't really know what's happening. I think the Asian trials have now moved in front of that, so I think they're actually happening in October, and then the East Coast trials for the ADCC for US will be in November, actually happening second this year. So I'm curious to see if she'll enter that. That may be the next time we see her under ADCC rules, because that's sort of where my head is at. How does she fare against Garcia? That's kind of what my thought is at. Like in Nogi, how does she fare against Gabby?
Yep.
So good for her. Great finish here. Next match, we have John Combs defeating Aaron Wilson via guillotine. My note says, live by the guillotine, die by the guillotine.
Yep. That's Combs' bread and butter right there.
Yeah. Dude, from the get-go, Combs is setting up off of like the wrestling shots of Aaron here. And they you could see after like Aaron's looking to take him down and Combs keeps wrapping the guillotine. They keep having to reset the match over and over again because they get close to the edge. And you see by like the second or third time, Combs is getting visibly frustrated of like, come on, like, oh, you're not going to start me back with this headlock position again? Because you can see Combs kind of conceding position to get the arch over, to get the shoulder, and to get the guillotine involved. And as a guillotine player, I totally get his frustration because it's so hard to end up in the spot you want to and to concede like enough of the takedown to get the guillotine you want so that when you are taken down, you end up where you want.
Right.
And then... credit to him. He doesn't get thrown off by it. He keeps fighting through the entirety of the match, looking for that guillotine. And the finishing sequence is great. Grabs the guillotine, rolls it over, follows and tracks it, and then does that classic thing. He ends up in that nice high mount and finishes with 10 seconds left.
It's so dope.
It was a really great finish. And
glad to see him
bounce right back.
Yeah, bouncing back
because he just had a tough match last weekend versus I'm messing up the guy's name. Daisy Fresh. Mm-hmm. That guy. I'm going to forget his name and immediately stop recording. I'm going to get it now. So cool to see him back in the win column. I think he's 8-8 in Fight to Win now. So I love watching this guillotine game as a guillotine player. It's cool to see guys finish that mounted guillotine like that.
Next up, we have Jorge Perez defeating Luciano Gerson de Castro Ferreira via decision. Manny Ray Gonzalez defeats Charles Hirsch via armbar. Fernando de Jesus defeats Vinny Sainz via split decision.
And that was Friday night for the black belts.
Angel Lopez defeats Reynaldo Villa via decision. Tommy Monteiro defeats Brian Pierce via choke. Chris Carrasco defeats Christopher Hargett via armbar.
On to the brown belt results.
Troy Russell defeats Michael Lugo via split decision.
And it's Friday night for the brown belts.
Dominic Williams defeats Maxwell de Trinidad via choke. Manuel Aguilar defeats Julian Godinez via ankle lock.
And that was submission of the night for the brown belt.
Tainan Dalpra defeats Ed Johnson via armbar.
Dude, Tainan looks good. We're going to see him get black here from the Mendez brothers in a year, probably.
Yeah.
And I'm super curious to see how he matches up. Again, he was on because Alves was on the card as well. I'm curious to see if we're going to see him more on Fight to Win, but he knocked this out quick, looked really, really good. We haven't seen a ton of him recently because he's typically more of like an IBJJF player, but watch out for him. We're going to see a lot from him soon as I think everything opens back up and he moves into black belt.
Yep.
On to the purple belt results.
James Tyson defeats Ramiro Leon via toe hold. Evan Kutzer defeats Chase Dunlap via split decision. Owen Papworth defeats Randy Wright via heel hook.
And that was submission of the night for the purple belts.
Matt Copper defeats Ray Pina via decision. Dylan Nguyen defeats Joshua Woosley via choke. Jacob Norton defeats Ben Williford via armbar. Nicholas Martinez defeats Zachary Kaina via split decision.
And that was Friday night for the purple belts.
Brian Scrambler defeats Christopher Creamer via decision. Charlie Gilpin defeats Timothy Cundiff via guillotine.
On to the blue belt results.
Cole Abate defeats Colby Hernandez via armbar. Dwight Kilpack defeats Cody Lair via split decision. Laura Craiglow defeats Yashira Milayas via decision. Louis McClendo defeats Tim Ramsey via rear naked choke. Pete Ayler defeats Brandon Lara via Americana.
Well, I realize we haven't been recording the video for the show for the first 30 minutes of the episode.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Yep.
That was submission of the night for the blue belts. Alexandru Marcelo defeats Angel Medina via split decision. And that was
Friday night for the blue belts. I got all thrown off now. Oh, this is going to be a really interesting week.
Bronson Hansen defeats Mike Sanchez via armbar.
On to the kids' results.
Nathan Riley defeats Brody Banks via split decision.
That was Friday night for the kids.
Eli Esquivel Jr. defeats Andrew DeGraff via triangle.
And that was submission of the night for the kids. I'm all thrown off now, having forgotten.
You should just, put in a video of you chilling at the beach.
Maybe just with headphones on, like with a caption, Maine forgot to start the video recording this week. Yeah, my mind's on vacation. It's been a year and a half.
You're allowed to, man.
I think that's the first time I've forgotten that in probably 5 or 6 months.
Yep.
So that sucks. All right. Well, that was that for Fight to Win 147. You want to move on to Spyder?
Yeah.
All right. So moving on our recap of Spyder Road to Black Belt. So what this was a brown and purple belt event, combination event. They're looking at a bunch of prospects to see who will get the first 3 spots into the Spyder Korea Black Belt, Black Belt Invitational.
And this is a 8-man bracket, basically.
Yep, with a super fight, with women's wrestling combination super fight as well on the card. So, again, last week, we got some messages about how to pronounce these guys' names. I worked on it. I apologize. I'm not going to be able to do it because my confidence in myself and naming is very low. Opening round.
Diego Sodre defeats Yunseo Ha.
And they keep going.
Okay.
The names throwing me off.
Seok Hyun Seo defeats Gyeonju Lee.
That was a decision.
Fabricio Andre defeats Hyunwoo Han.
Finish the nice, honestly, really nice finishing sequence here. Locks up a triangle. Doesn't look like he's going to get the triangle here, and he's able to finish with that Americana armbar combination where it's kind of, you pull the arm out not straight but to the side. I'm a huge fan of that. I like it because you don't have to travel as much distance on the arm to get the tap. You don't have to extend all the way and end up with them kind of turning out. You can start attacking the shoulder sideways, and so gets it. Really nice finish here.
Kevin Carrasco defeats Juwan Park. That was a phenomenal match.
Yeah.
And
I mean, the ending sequence for me is what does it. It's
there's maybe not
10,
even 30 seconds left.
10 seconds left or something like that in the match.
Kevin ice cold hits a Tomoe.
He's down on points at this point. He's down on points.
Juwan has 4 points and Kevin has 2 points.
Mm-hmm.
He's down and he just, he does a tech up where they're both kind of kneeling and standing, and then he uses that and he pulls himself back into guard, but his hips are now far, under Juwan, and he's able to pull him forward and hit a beautiful Tomoe.
Kind of reminds me of what Megaton does, where he just drops in that low Tomoe. It's not kind of the way that we see judokas do it, but it's basically off of a jiu-jitsu guard pull is sort of what it looks like, but he's gotten really good. It might actually be a Wakare Tomoe, or there's another caveat name or a distinction name for that specific Tomoe, but gets on top, gets the points, and then he wins up on advantages. Yeah. And so it was a nice, at the end, a guy pulling it out, and it was again a cool technique to see right at the end in order to get a sweep like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, apologies for the mispronunciations of the names. We're
working on it. Again, we've gotten better at the Spanish names, at the Portuguese names, at the European names. We are starting to cover more events in Korea as the show goes on. We're working on the Korean names. I appreciate the messages. This is how you pronounce the name.
The patience, yeah.
Yeah, give us patience.
So in the semifinals, we have Diego Sodre defeating Seo-hyun Seo.
Via like a bow and arrow combo finish. Super high up.
Gangster, man.
He does it off of like the De La Riva lasso. He does like a bolo crab ride combo in order to get to the back.
De La Riva.
What'd I say?
De La Riva.
Hiva?
Yes. De La Hiva.
De La Hiva bolo crab ride combo.
There we go.
To get the back. And he uses that, I'm going to call it the ass grip, that is illegal in AJP now, but the IBJJF still allows.
I fucking hate that grip so much.
This was an IBJJF type scoring event, and so he pulls the pants completely down. They reset. I wish they would change the grip. I think that's we just see it too often where the pants come down.
The pants come down, and if you're gonna give me the bullshit about like the inside the ankle grips being illegal, like the same fucking logic holds for inside of the
and you can't break the fingers, but like I don't like the grip because it looks really bad to see a dude's ass come out.
Yeah,
and I would like to see less of that, and so I think we should go to what AJP has done and gone like you can't pull the grip anymore.
Yep.
But it's legal, so he's able to use it, and again, it's a really really strong position and grip as a bolo player. You need that. You don't need the grip, but it makes it a lot easier to hit that, especially against high level competition. And then he ends in like not the back mount, but he's sort of like an off angled back mount, and he just immediately goes into the choke. But I love the finish here because he doesn't finish traditional where you have like the grip on the knee for the bow and arrow. He has the full underhook on the leg, and it's
so brutal.
It's that super gangster finish where the guy's all folded up with one leg in the air, baned, and it just from sideways. It's really good, and the camera angle is directly forward, so you can see the gripping, you can see where the leg is, you can see the
grimace. Yeah.
It's a really cool finish. It was one of the cooler finishes on Spyder, and Diego Sodre gets it done with that like bow and arrow, like not even a modified bow and arrow finish. It's just sort of a bow and arrow finish, but with the high underhooked leg grip as opposed to just the fabric grip on the knee for the finish.
Next up, we have Fabricio Andre defeating Kevin Carrasco on points.
A lot of really high scoring match. Ended up 7-2 for Fabricio. Just looked good. They both played off with the double sleeve grips, and Fabricio just does more and just is able to pass and get around, gets in the on belly, outscores him.
Yep. In the third place match, Kevin Carrasco defeats Seo-hyun Seo. And
I'm not saying I gotta watch more Kevin because he I don't really know a ton about him. We typically on the show don't cover a lot of the lower belts just because there's typically so many of the black belts to cover. But again, I really enjoy like things like Royal and Spyder that do showcase like the lower belts on like really, really high level like color belts.
Yeah.
Because it gives me an excuse to like go back and watch guys that are up and coming.
Yep.
Like Kevin.
The other thing, Zach from the Grappling Rewind brought up, which I thought was very insightful, was if you want to see what the meta is going to be in 3 years, start watching purple belts now. The high level purple and brown belts.
He brought that up. We covered Euros.
Yep.
He was like, I went through, we did all the Euro stuff. And he's like, and on top of that, I went back through and I watched all the finals for the brown belts and the purple belts. And this is what I was seeing. And I went, oh, that's amazing. I hadn't really thought about that. Like, those are the guys paving the way for what the meta is going to look like in 3 or 4 years. So, again, I like when these guys are showcased on main events because we get a chance to see like, what are they? And everyone's playing like super hard with the lapels.
Yep.
That is the meta that we're going to see.
So in the final, we have Diego Sodre defeating Fabricio Andre. So it goes to ref's decision.
Super close match. Again, this was the 50. It wasn't even like 50-50. It was like...
Are your notes correct? It ends 6-6 on points?
No, 8-8. 8-8 on points.
Okay.
And then the scoreboard was wrong. So it was, I think, 2 advantages, I think. Because the scoreboard had 1 advantage to no advantages. Or they were even on advantages. The scoreboard didn't show that on the broadcast. So it was super confusing. Even to the commentary guys, it was kind of confusing. We were like, I'm not sure. Because then all of a sudden they went to decision. And it was back and forth from the single leg X 50-50 position with an outside leg on the 50-50, back and forth, like lapel sweeping. This was just a really high level IBJJF 50-50 sweep battle. Both guys were like making decisions, were kind of like changing their strategy up and playing to the time. We see the double pull here, at Spyder a lot, and that was on display here as well. Decision, Diego gets it. We are going to see Diego Sodre in the Road to Black Belt, in the tournament for Spyder. We are going to see Fabricio Andre in the tournament for Spyder, and we're going to see Kevin Carrasco in the finals, in the event for Spyder. So I'm super excited to see all three of those guys in there because they all have fun games that I think potentially might be able to really compete at Spyder.
Yeah.
One thing that was really interesting about Spyder is these dudes coming into the country had to quarantine in a hotel room alone for 2 weeks. 2 weeks mandatory quarantine where these dudes were by themselves.
That's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, we know Spyder hooks it up. Like, they have the best. They have straight up the best prizes in all of jiu-jitsu.
They have definitely the biggest money.
Yeah.
I mean, the Spyder...
single event...
The $100,000 prize for Spyder... Oh, yeah, it was $250,000.
For a single event.
For a single event.
They gave out to the athletes, yeah.
For the big one at Spyder last time.
They're small tournaments, so it's not like...
It's A-mans.
Yeah.
It's not like 42 guys. It's like 8 dudes. Someone's walking away. 16 men, because they had 2 brackets last time, where it's like one guy from one bracket's walking away with $100,000. The loser of that is walking away, I think, with like 10 or
15.
10 or 15. The quarterfinals guys are walking away with money. And that happened for both brackets. They gave away $240,000 or $250,000 in prize money at the last one.
If they're making these guys post up in a hotel,
well, they're not. The Korean government is. It's a government mandated thing.
But I'm sure Spyder is taking care of them.
I hope so. I mean, again, every guy we've talked to, like publicly and privately, has been like, yeah, Spyder hooks you up. Like, Spyder is one of the brands that you want to be sponsored by because they do it right for the athletes. And like every guy that I've seen has always been like super happy with their gear and like how they're treated as an athlete. I think Shane talked about walking out of the train station in Seoul and seeing like big posters, with them on it. Him or DJ.
You know what I like about Spyder now that I think about it is they have a thriving like sports apparel company and equipment company that's not 100% jiu-jitsu, and so they can afford to like put money into the development, whereas like a lot of jiu-jitsu specific brands aren't going to have that level of footprint. So fucking awesome on Korea, like and Spyder specifically.
I also love they kept having pull-out shots of like where the location they were. It looked like it was in a super rural area, like this really nice facility, and like adjacent to the facility would be like a crop field and like some smaller like farmhouses. It was kind of cool, like the juxtaposition between like a major highway in the background, these smaller like dirt road and fields, and then this Spyder Korea facility with like an outdoor soccer field is really nice. Oh, there's one other match on the card I want to talk about. It was a mixed rules wrestling match. I'm not exactly certain what the rules were for this match. It was between Jae Shong versus Kyra Sung. Choi is a wrestler and Choi is a wrestler and Sung is a jiu-jitsu. This was a no-gi match. They both compete at 62 kilograms, and it was a modified like wrestling jiu-jitsu match. Spyder does these from time to time. It starts off. It basically Sung looks really good here. It starts off with Choi hitting kind of like not like a weaker arm drag, and then Sung immediately takes her back. And then that is the rest of the match. And she's able to score back mount like 3 times in this match. And this is where I'm kind of confused about what the rules were. Before, commentary was talking about because it's a mixed rules wrestling grappling match, there's a negative 3 points for the guard pull. So I was going to see that come into play, but it didn't because Sung is able to get the back and then rack up 12 points. Yeah. So she's on the back. She moves around. She's going for the choke. They change position a little bit on the back, and she's awarded 4 more back points. They change position again on the back, and she's awarded from. I'm not really certain because it's a mixed rules match. I assume you don't have to go back through the guard. I couldn't quite figure it out, and I didn't get a chance to read through the Spyder Korea rules yet on how this match worked. Looked really good. In the end of the match, Choi goes back into the guard and tries to like one arm under, one arm over pass, and Sung locks up another triangle.
Yeah, it was not like. I don't think Choi had even gotten to the point of over-undering. It was just like really nice, quick flash setup, basically.
And then time runs out, and that's the match, and Sung takes that, pretty convincingly. I'm kind of curious how these go. I almost wish that we would do these with jiu-jitsu players and then modify the rules. Like, I want to see these done with jiu-jitsu players first before we introduce other, like, grappling rule sets. Like, change the point scoring and see how it works with just jiu-jitsu players or just wrestlers before we have mixed matches like that. Again, I like the Spyder's, like, broadening out and, like, doing these sort of things. I just wish we have a couple promotions that I think Third Coast is doing this as well. A couple promotions that are starting to mix, you know, and Flo's talked about it ad nauseum, trying to, like, make beef between wrestling and jiu-jitsu. If we're gonna see it, I want to kind of flesh out the rules in those disciplines first before we put guys together.
It's funny now that I think about it. Like, if you're gonna get two completely different sports to go at it, like jiu-jitsu and judo would make a little bit more sense than like wrestling.
Yeah,
but I understand that wrestling has a way bigger presence in the United States, and that's probably why they're trying to do it.
It's the foundation of ADCC.
Yeah,
like I think that plays a huge piece. This was a no-gi match, and I think the prevalence of ADCC is like the biggest, you know, tournament in the world here. Is why we're seeing more of that, because people are realizing like, oh, I need to make my wrestling up to snuff, and then having it versus their actual wrestler is a good way to kind of see where the barometer is. But yeah, I think you're right. I'm curious to see if we're going to see on a Fight to Win, because Fight to Win is now doing jacketless judo matches. There was one a couple weeks ago, but I think we actually ended up missing.
Jacketless judo?
Yeah, like freestyle judo, basically. I think we missed that a couple weeks ago, but I saw a highlight. It looked like either the guy was a judoka and it was a no-gi match, or it was a jacketless match. I couldn't tell from the comments. I watched the match. The guy hit a great throw on it, but I would like now that I would kind of like to see more judo scoring go into jiu-jitsu. Like, hey, you score a big throw. It's like 8 points.
Yeah,
like you ip on the guy. Match doesn't end.
I think 5 points would be pretty good for like a big.
But I think it has to be more than 5 because it should be match ending in judo, and like 5 is like one more than back mount, which is not match ending. So you make it. I'm just literally just spitballing here. We didn't talk about this beforehand at all. I'm curious. I think I agree with you that I'd like to see it versus like judokas, because I feel like there would be a comparable understanding of the chokes and some of the groundwork and other stuff.
I think wrestling has such fundamentally different rules that like that's a lot harder to bridge than. Just from like from a scoring perspective, like even like the aims and the goals of wrestling are different. They're just so
and like
different.
Judo, the aims are like, I mean, jiu-jitsu comes out of judo. It doesn't come out of wrestling. You know, ADCC is a submission wrestling tournament. They've kind of blended it, but it still definitely favors jiu-jitsu guys.
Absolutely, and like. The wrestling that we see in ADCC even is...
We see bent over shots. We see guys from type hitting bent over shots, which works at that level and like at the highest levels.
Anyone who's done wrestling just must be cringing watching.
But they can't win ADCC. Like they cringe at the shots, but they also like the groundwork comes into play, and it's like good. Enjoy the water that you're in.
Yeah, no, it's just again, it's a completely different rule set.
I like where they're going with it. I think that needs to be fleshed out a little bit. I would like a little more explanation of the rules for this one, because I was kind of curious to see. It looked like there was combination scoring of the back mount, but it was interesting. And again, a huge fan of Spyder what they're doing. I do kind of wish we would make a custom rule set for Spyder. The IBJJF rules, they're slower matches. I would like to see more emphasis placed on, like, maybe eliminating the double guard pull penalties instead of 4, make it to like 2. Because we see a couple matches here where we're seeing that repeatedly. So, just a thought. Again, I'm always going to cover Spyder. Big fan of what they're doing. One of the few events we covered that's actually like lower belts, you know, in the gi. So it was great. Let's see. Move on to the preview section?
Yes.
All right, moving on to the preview section. You want to start with BJJ Stars? You want to start with Fight to Win 48?
BJJ Stars, dude. Come on.
All right, so on our preview of the BJJ Stars
our
event.
Pre-wind as
pre-wind. Who said it?
Blue belt breakdown.
Yeah, he said that.
That was a great suggestion.
The pre-wind. It takes place on July 25th. Starts at 6 p.m. It's being broadcast on Flow, which is a first for them. They've typically been a pay-per-view model, and we've had, honestly, some issues covering them in the past due to that.
Yep.
Happy it's on Flow. This one is headlined by João Gabriel Rocha versus Kenan Duarte.
Yeah. Originally, it was supposed to be Pena, right?
Yes, Pena.
What happened with Pena?
I think he got injured, is what it was. It was
God damn it.
Injury, or it was like an issue getting there. I don't remember what it was.
Like, João Gabriel Rocha is a beast. And
the Pena matchup is so
The Pena
exciting.
matchup is so... Like, Pena is, like, truly, like... he's one of like the best I think out there right now.
Yeah.
And I really would love to see Kainan. We also don't get to see Penna that often.
Yeah,
you know?
I think it's more like João Gabriel is, again, if you're going to replace a guy, I think João Gabriel is a really, really good replacement at the weight class.
So,
but we don't see Penna that often, so when we get to see Penna, we drop it's like, oh man, I get to see Penna.
Right. So, yeah, João Gabriel Rocha is very active. In fact, he's had recently in the past year a few matches with Kainan. And
two.
They have they met at King of Mats in the round robin. That's
what it was.
In the round robin portion, Kainan guillotined him, and then in the finals, João Gabriel wins with advantage over Kainan. So yeah, very, very close, obviously.
So I think a really reasonable matchup.
Great matchup. And then of course we saw João Gabriel at Kasai. Kainan was not in there, but Hulk was.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be picking Kainan, of course. Here.
You're always gonna pick Kainan.
Yeah, it's like
there's very few. There's a couple guys like. Well,
there's a couple guys where I would pause and I'd be like, oh, this is really like tough, but like. Unless you're...
Yeah. There's a couple guys that neither of us pick against. Yeah. And for you, it's Kainan.
Yeah.
Like, you're just not going to pick against him. For me, it's usually like Dante. I'm just not usually going to pick against Dante.
That's true. Dante's a tough one to pick against as well.
But Kainan is a guy, like, if Kainan is ever on the card, I think unless there's, like, either Galvao, Penna, or Gordon, you're probably going to pick Kainan.
Yeah.
I think I would be... I'm curious that... with how I haven't seen their last match since we actually covered it on the show. So I'm kind of curious to see how that goes. I'm curious to see like what Duarte has been like, what changes he will make, because he's still a guy that we're seeing like make changes to his game in a pretty like rapid way.
One of the reasons why we love covering him is that he adapts so much.
Yeah.
You know, like we saw, for example, you know, like there was the very visible submission by Lachlan Giles, and we saw Kainan just like, you know, up his leg game within a few weeks. You know, we saw him again.
He hooked Nicky Rod.
Yeah.
2 weeks after in their rematch at Fight to Win.
Yep.
Like literally, like, you know, I am curious. Again, João Gabriel is one of those guys that's like notoriously just hard to beat. Like he plays the rules well. He plays the game well. BJJ Stars is under IBJJF rules.
He's on a 4-round losing streak.
Yeah, at Kasai, and then prior to
King of
Matt.
And then the Grand Prix he lost to Cyborg in the finals.
Who won the whole thing.
Yeah.
Is that really the last time he's competed?
Kasai was the last one, yeah.
I'm saying, but like that's the Grand Prix is one of his last 4 events. That was like September of that was like August of last year, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. It's been a crazy... 2020 is such a weird year because half the year there's been like 6 events.
Yep, exactly.
So, again, I kind of want to favor Kainan here just because he's young, he's getting so much better, but João Gabriel can play spoiler here, and he does have a win against Duarte, which not a whole lot of guys do. Right. So, I'm still picking Kainan here. I think it will be close.
Yep.
But I think Kainan will get it done probably via like a sweep or a pass. I think is all it'll be. It'll be a very, very small margin here.
Yeah, I think a 2 to 3 point.
I don't see a sub here, especially on like a super fight for João. João typically like we don't see him get subbed a lot on super fights.
Yeah.
Let's see. I got nothing else on that. That's where I think it's gonna go.
Next up, we have Leandro Lowe versus Lucas the Hulk Barbosa. Phenomenal matchup right there.
So, Hulk took Leandro's Pan title away last year in 2019. This is when these guys have met. So Leandro was only like 9-time Pan champion because Hulk took it from him. I think that was not that far. That was 2019. I kind of want to pick Hulk here. Again, he's coming off of who submitted him? Like last week.
Felipe Andrew.
Andrew submitted him last week at Third Coast.
Yep.
But we haven't seen Leandro in a bit.
We haven't seen him
and that's kind of why I'm like, what have you been doing? I don't really know. We've seen Hulk. Hulk looks pretty good. He got caught by Felipe, but again, Felipe seems to be able to catch like anyone.
So like Leandro, let's see. Leandro, the last things that he's done, he was at Spyder Invitational in 2019, lost first round to Kainan.
Yep.
He's at BJJ Stars, loses the second round, and then Worlds. That's Worlds 2019. So not very active.
But still, he's fucking Leandro.
Yeah,
he's one of those things. Like, not very active, but it is Leandro. Low, like he's been around for. He's been around for a long time.
Yep.
I kind of want to give the edge to Hulk here, just because I feel like this will look very similar to Hulk's match versus, not quite like Lovato, but I feel like he's gonna get around Leandro's guard. I feel like he'll sweep here, and then we'll see like a really heavy passing game from Barbosa here, and I'm gonna guess that he probably takes it via like an advantage or via like a really close decision is how I think this is going to go.
It's difficult to predict with Leandro, because like Leandro he's so hot or cold. Like if he cracks, he crumbles. Like it's for example, if Hulk gets a pass on Leandro, it's completely conceivable that like Hulk takes the back, and it's like it's one of those things where
it snowballs.
It snowballs real quick with Leandro.
Well, Leandro like on his passing looks good. Like he can run. Again, both those guys kind of work like that. They can sort of both run away with a match.
They can, but I will say that I think Hulk is a little bit more consistent in terms of like
recently.
Yeah. Like
okay.
Someone actually, I'm trying to remember now. In the past year, someone wore Hulk down, and I'm trying to remember. Was it Cyborg? Was it Cyborg who just like
was it a Kasai?
Worked him?
Was it Kasai?
And he looked exhausted.
I think it was a Kasai.
Yeah.
And then he suplexed him at the end.
Yeah.
To like cement it, and because Hulk just. But that was also after multiple rounds, Hulk had to work hard in a couple of those rounds.
Yeah, but that was literally, that's the only time I've seen Hulk like look like he's in deep water. Like for the most part, he looks composed.
I think it was World match it was, but yeah, it's rare.
He's like look back to that like Denise quarterfinals match from a few years ago, where like Denise like had him dead to rights, and Hulk was just like, nah, fuck you.
He just didn't.
He was like, no.
That match is still one of the craziest comebacks. It was 2018, wasn't it?
2018, yeah.
Might have been 2018, just like the reverse choke, and then reversed it to his own collar choke.
Yeah.
The same thing, and finished.
So I'm and the funny thing is I've been picking Hulk. I'm going to pick Hulk here. I've been picking Hulk, and he's been
wrong. You've been wrong
about it, but I'm still going to pick him anyway.
I think did we pick Hulk at Kasai? I don't remember.
No, we picked correctly Cyborg.
We picked Cyborg, okay. That's what I thought.
Although I did say Hulk is the person that I thought would.
Which I think we picked that kind of close.
Yep.
Based on, me not remembering at all from like 6 months ago.
So, next up we have Patrick Gaudio versus Herberth Santos, who somehow manages to get his way back on BJJ Stars.
I thought they banned him for life after
he
tried to fight the Penas.
Yep.
If you don't remember, there is a great clip on our Instagram. Last time we covered this,
Herberth. I forgot.
So last time, we kind of got off topic for a second. Last time we covered Roberto Santos on BJJ Stars, he fought the Pena brothers, and I am introducing the segment on that episode of the Grappling Rewind, and Josh goes, "No, fuck that! I'm gonna cut you off," and just launches into a Josh Weinstock rant.
And my God.
I cut it in with sideline footage that I could use from BJJ Stars.
I was laughing so hard listening to that. I was so glad that Josh was on for that.
It's somewhere on our Instagram. I forget. Whenever BJJ Stars 1 or 2 would have been, and I spent forever editing that together and doing that. But I edited it so long it's stuck in my head. Nah, I'm gonna cut you off. Remember that shit when shit guy it's just Josh going off. So whenever I see Herberth now on BJJ Stars, that's all I can think of is that Josh Weinstock quote of him just cutting me off mid intro to the segment and just going it.
Yeah. So that's Patrick Gaudio is a fucking monster. Herberth
is also a monster.
Yeah, lately we've seen Herberth do really fucking well again. So I'm stoked for that match.
But again, it's which Herberth shows up. Like,
but he's been showing up more. There was that like year or so where it was like
even in the last year he had a couple matches that were just with a Margali match at Spyder. He was doing great, and then just quit.
Come on, that's Margali.
It is Margali, but again, Gaudio's really, really good. It wouldn't surprise me here to see Herberth hit that 50-50 knee bar that he hits. Herbert is honestly, in the gi, one of the most proficient leg lockers, and we don't talk about it a whole lot, but that day, I think he toe-hooted Claudio Calazans. Last, I think it was it, might have been Spyder. Like, dude's a really, really good leg locker. And we saw Gaudio, I think most recently, at ADCC. With Lachlan. I think these are all in the gi. I don't know offhand, but I'm honestly... I always kind of want to favor... I usually favor Herbert by, leg lock. Because if you look at his BJJ Heroes record, dude has a hell of a lot of leg locks.
Yeah.
So, again, could go either way. We haven't seen... Again, we're doing quarantine picks.
Yep.
It's like we haven't seen guys in 6 months.
That's true.
So it's super hard for me
guys,
to,
Yep.
I don't know what their training situation's like. I don't know what other situations like. I don't know.
I have a feeling all these guys are training fine. Like, dude, even locally,
but it's not the same. It's not going to be the same. Like, they're not in the competitive swing of things.
That's true.
I'm curious to most of these guys. This is probably the longest competitive lapse they've ever had, not due to injury, ever. And so I'm kind of curious, if there's going to be some rust that knocks off into some of these matches.
It's entirely possible.
But I don't know.
Next up, we have Claudio Calazans versus Izaki Bahens. That's another, these cards, the BJJ Star cards are just stacked with talent.
Yeah.
Both of these guys are perennially
this is a super
monsters.
hard one for me to pick. I've thought about this for a while.
It's hard,
because we've seen some slow matches from Bahens, and we've seen some dynamic matches from Bahens.
Yeah, he's, for the most part, it appears as though he's pensive and he will get into a tactical battle, and then towards the end he might explode. As per we see that a lot in IBJJF style competitors. In part because of the match length and the rule set.
You can't just crush it for 10 minutes, especially, I have 4 matches that are all going to be 10 minutes. I'm fighting high-level guys at least for the last 2 rounds, if not 3 rounds.
So I'm anticipating to see something a lot like that, where this is going to be a pensive tactical battle.
Calazans on the bottom, open guard work,
honestly,
sleeve work, and then Bahens passing. I'm guessing that's going to be the majority of the match. And then we'll see a lot of crazy action probably in the last 30 to 45 seconds is probably, and whoever I think wins that battle is going to be the winner.
Yep.
Honestly, is my guess here.
Next up, we have Bianca Basilio versus Anna Rodriguez. That's going to be fucking fire.
I'm excited for this matchup. Yeah. Again, I love watching Bianca compete. I'm going to favor her here in this one.
Yep.
But... Yeah, I'm honestly just a fan. I'm happy. I'm happy to see her. Happy to be able to cover her again.
Yep, ADCC champ. Mm-hmm. Leo Leite versus Gabriel Gonzaga.
Haven't seen Gonzaga, I think, since Sug. I think it was the last time we covered Gonzaga was that. So I'm excited to see how Gonzaga looks, because he showed some cool things during Sug last time.
Hinata Mourinho versus Sabata Lace. Sergio Moraes versus Luis Marquez.
I think this is the same Sergio Moraes that fights in the UFC.
Okay.
I think Gabriel doesn't fight in the UFC anymore. And then they also have Charles Dubronx on here, which they've listed him as Charles Dubronx. It's Charles Oliveira.
Yep. So Charles Dubronx versus Gabriel Royo. Kleber Clandestino versus Mayram Makin. Charles Duende versus Gustavo Zimu. And Marcos Pecho versus Robinho.
So this should be a lot of fun. This is on July 25th. I don't have anything else to cover on this one. Anything else?
That's it.
All right, let's move on to Fight to Win 148, happening the day before on July 24th, Austin, Texas. This one is headline. I think the headline for this one, is it Victor Hugo versus Max Jimenez? Or do you think headlined by Keenan versus...
I think Victor Hugo, because just Victor is he's been on a tear in all of these grappling.
Does he have the belt at Fight to Win? I think he fought for it. I don't think he does, because it's not listed here as a title fight. I mean, that's the only 2 matches we have right now. It's Sunday. Usually these matches get released Monday, Tuesday, and so we don't usually get a chance to see all of them. But it doesn't list it as a title fight. I don't think it is. This is a tough match for Jimenez, but we've seen Jimenez look good. I think Jimenez is still local. I think he's still out of ground control in Colombia. I interviewed him before ADCC there. I did a photo shoot for Fight to Win there, and that's the last time that I think I've spoken to him. Might have actually spoken to him at ADCC, but I don't remember. I assume this is a gi matchup,
but I don't know. Both guys we've talked to.
We've seen them both in gi and no gi.
We've talked to both guys. Last time I spoke to Jimenez, he wanted to do more no gi, kind of prep for ADCC. So I'm curious. I do want to give this to Hugo, just because, again, familiarity. Like, we've seen more from Hugo during quarantine competing. We've seen his matches versus Cyborg. Like, I think we've seen him on Third Coast. You know, he's just been more active recently, and I'm right now. I'm sort of a lot of these matches. I'm just picking on who has been more active during everything being shut down.
Yeah, I mean, I see Victor playing the guard here. Max is huge. I mean, Victor's huge too.
Yeah, but Max is a big
Max
dude.
is a big pressure. You know, he like generates a lot of pressure passing. So
go watch his match with Buchecha if you want to see like the big guy work.
Yep.
So honestly, that's him. His match with Gordon or his match with Buchecha. If you're gonna go back and watch Max Jimenez and watch matches, go back and watch those. I think actually he loses both his matches, but like you can see that dude can put it on, and so that's why this is actually a super compelling matchup for me. I do not know how this is gonna go. Mm-hmm. I'm guessing it's gonna be on the slower end, but both these guys can do that. Like that ramp of pace where they just like they flash something and they come back down. They flash something and they both kind of play like that.
I can't think of a Victor Hugo match that's been slow. Like usually it's pretty active.
Yeah, there's one I'm thinking of that was why I said that, but I don't. Might have been one of the Euros matches or might have been one of the Grand Prix matches. I think it was like the second round of the Grand Prix. I think he had a slower match, but I could be wrong about that. That might be what I'm thinking. For some reason, Victor Hugo, like the GP that he was in, is the first thing I think of every time. I don't know why. That's the one, the IBJJF GP last year. For some reason, that's the first match that always pops in my head. So I think maybe give it to Hugo. Just again, we've seen him more recently, and he's been more active. Next matchup. Keenan Cornelius versus Mateus Luna. I think this is the first time that Keenan's going to be on Fight to Win. I looked at his BJJ Heroes page to see, because I thought he had been on Fight to Win before. And I can't find it, but I'm excited as hell.
Yeah.
Keenan's, dude, like, in this rule set, with 10 minutes to work potentially, 7 minutes to work potentially, like, he can run. He's a sub guy.
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna see him enter into the worm guard. He has that big space to work. The refs are gonna reset him if they come off the mat in the positions with the lapels that he wants.
Surprised. Like, I feel like maybe we haven't, aside from there's the Who's Number One
with Jimenez.
I feel like we haven't seen that much Keenan.
2020, we saw him in Euros.
Right.
And then we've seen him at Who's Number One.
Right.
That is it. Again, Euros was January.
I think in part the gym change probably just took him out of a lot of stuff.
I think the gym change was late last year, and then he would have opened up Legion, and then he would have done Euros immediately after that. And then we saw him versus Jimenez, like right after Jimenez got promoted to black belt. And then Jimenez won that match, and then he's taking a break. So it's cool to see him back on the stage. Again, I think his game plays well into the Fight to Win rule set. Like, again, we know Keenan nowadays is like a super point scoring guy, but if there are no points,
Keenan is smart too. Like,
yeah,
you know, he
understands the rule set guy.
Yeah, exactly. Like I imagine Keenan will have implemented some low hanging fruit submissions, you know, to really, like, you know, cement his win there if necessary.
That's one of the reasons I really enjoy, like, Keenan, again, his speaking and talking against his podcast with Hinger, is when they get into discussions about the high level, like the meta of jiu-jitsu, I really enjoy his perspective on that, because he talks like very matter of fact of like, oh, you should do this here because the refs look at this and score this here, so you end up in these. It's like, it's really cool to hear him break it down. So I think that having been on Who's Number One and
listening to his commentary too is always like really eye-opening as well.
Yeah, his commentary for, I think the last time I heard him in commentary, I forget what it was. I remember his commentary on ADCC West Coast Trials when he was commentating Hinger's match.
It was so dope.
When he's like, because a guy he trains with all the time, like talking about what he was doing, and that was I like listening to Keenan talk. I think he usually has really interesting perspectives on jiu-jitsu and like the meta. He's very well spoken, and he understands it very well. Again, I agree with you. I think he will have made the changes here he needs to. Now he's done the rule set before, knowing what Fight to Win is looking for. He's the guy that'll be attending the rules meeting when they weigh in, and like probably have a couple of questions to ask, and then go and get it done. So should be a really fun event. I got nothing else this week. Do you have anything else, Emil?
That's it, man.
All right, so that does it for this week's show. Do you have anything going on this week? I'm going to be on the first vacation I've had.
I hope you get to chill out, man. You deserve it.
I'm going to put my feet in the beach around no one. We're gonna drive like down the dune and then find a place that's like in the middle of nowhere, like access the beach here, and then get away. We're basically staying in Ocean City, like away from everyone. So
nice.
I'm super excited to be like alone in like no man's land at the beach. So that will be a lot of fun. I need the break because I've been in my basement for like I think 4 months straight, for probably 10 to 16 hours a day, between work and then the podcast and then everything else.
Yeah.
And there's like one window here, which is the door. So I'm excited to see the sunshine. You do anything this week, or you just going to work?
Just chilling, man.
Nice. Yeah, I got nothing. I mean, again, I'm on vacation. I'm in vacation mode, which is why I got to figure out what to do for the first 25 minutes of recording didn't have the video. So it might just be a picture of me with like a thumbs up, like, hey, Maine forgot to start the recording. Video starts at 25 minutes in.
Right.
Vacation. All right, I got nothing else.
All right.
As always in the show, I'm your host, Maine, joined with my co-host,
Emil.
We are the Grappling Rewind. See you on the mats.
See ya.
As soon as I mess up the intro again. If you like the show, please consider sharing it on Facebook with the folks at your gym. It's the best way that we grow the show, and we really appreciate it. You can reach out to us on email.
We also have Instagram. We have Facebook. We have Twitter. We have Google+.
Until that shuts down.
We have a website.
If you have an event you would like to have us cover, please let us know. If you have a name, like most people do, and you'd like to have us stop butchering it,
let us know.
Reach out to us. The show is also available on YouTube, Spotify, in addition to iTunes and every other podcast service. We very much appreciate your time, and thank you.